Well, good morning, folks. I'm actually up a little late. Of course, I woke up twice in the middle of the night. I want to tell you about how we got the name of God. This is an important video. This needs to get out there. And I'm pretty sure that the publisher of the Bible that I sell is going to be astounded, and he's probably even going to disagree with me on this for all I know, but we'll find out because I'll send him a copy. But this little lesson I'm going to give you came from Pastor Paul Burnham. Pastor Paul Burnham passed away approximately 4 years ago. As near as I can remember, it was 4 years ago when he passed away. I never did get to meet the man. I wanted to meet him. He was quite a bit different. His thinking was very different, and we were doing great over the phone. And he got upset with me because I had a Jewish friend on Facebook, and somebody had turned me into him. Well, it turned out that the guy that had turned me into him was an FBI agent who had infiltrated our little group, and I unfortunately helped him, gave him some credibility, and another woman on Facebook set me up and introduced me to him, and I confronted her on it. Turned out they were both on the FBI payroll, and she was tatted up and acted counterculture, and I confronted her about having introduced me to this fellow. His name was Sean, out of California. I still got his full name. I got his phone number in my phone. I guess I could call him up and harass him if I wanted to. And she wanted to put me in touch with him so I could help him because he was just starting to learn Christian identity. Now, I really don't like the moniker Christian identity because immediately we want to put the word movement on it. Christian identity movement, which sounds like a doggone, it undermines its credibility and makes it sound cultish. I don't appreciate that much. Anyway, this fellow maligned me with Pastor Paul Burnham, and Paul stopped talking to me, and I was hoping that I could get to visit him, and sadly he passed quite a bit before I could get there. He passed, I believe, in about September, maybe it was October. He passed in the fall, and my friend was there trying to take care of him, and didn't know that he was passing. And anyway, we lost Paul's life's work. We lost his entire library and the whole matter. I did get over there to Nevada, and I did my best to try to secure the library. I tried to buy it. I mean, I didn't really have the money for it, but I figured that the richest man in Vernon County, that's what I call my buddy there, since he makes a good living. He works pretty damn hard as a plumber. Figured he could afford it, so I told him, look, I'll go buy it, if you want it. I mean, but I really couldn't afford it. And anyway, the inheritor of those works just was Pastor Paul Burnham's stepdaughter, who just played him up because she wanted to get an inheritance. And we're pretty sure that she took Paul's entire library to the dump. And there were 2 boxes of books, and he wanted Jason to have them, and I wanted Jason to have them as well. And of course, I would have taken him and kept him myself if there was no other person to take care of him. And there's a teacher up in Michigan who probably would have liked to have had those as well. He's already got a bunch of books in storage from James Wigstrom. Wigstrom was a different story. Wigstrom was too closely associated with the FBI, and they protected him. I'm not going to go into that. I still have to have a face-to-face conversation on that matter. So until I have that face-to-face, I'm not going to say any more about it. But Pastor Paul Burnham told me how he got the name God. And Pastor Paul Burnham was an advocate of the name Yahweh as well. He said, we got the name God from Gad, which was the nickname short for Gadriel. Gadriel was a fallen angel, that's right, one of the fallen angels, who seduced Eve, had sex with Eve, impregnated her, and was the father of Cain. Now, of course, it's not quite in the Bible, so how do we get there? And Pastor Paul knew his stuff, and he had some extra books. Man, I really wanted to have access to those, but they're gone. Anyway, he had some other ideas that were extremely off the wall, and I approached this stuff with an open mind. And I also give credit where credit is due. So Pastor Paul Burnham does need to be remembered for giving us that contribution. So God was Gad, just morphed slightly. Gad became God. So basically, Gadriel was the name of the fallen angel. And I wanted to write something about it on my blog. It's still up on my blog. You can go read it. It's at givingpsychologyaway.com. And I probably wrote this blog entry up more than 3 years ago, so it's old. So you'll have to look it up. And when I wanted to write that, I'm like, how do I spell Gadriel? I want to spell it right. I don't want to make a misspelling. Now, Wigstrom misspelled all the time, and he mispronounced, because his education was by himself. He wasn't in an institution of higher learning, so he didn't have the benefit that I had. In other words, if I'd said something wrong, somebody near me would correct me. That's one of the benefits of having an education on campus. But Wigstrom's education was through the mailbox, the postal box, and he read a lot of literature, and he gave himself, from what I can tell, some literary doctorate degree for having read the literature in a specific area. Wish I could have hung out with James, but James did not like me. And the second time I visited his little group and was in one of the feasts as commanded by Yahweh, James basically ran me off, and I left. And I was glad I left. There were some actual informants there in the group. People were wondering if it was me, but they figured out in short order, because I was gone and the problem continued, that it was someone else. I was just a walk-in, basically. And what I mean is that friends of mine from the distance who knew James really well called up or emailed and asked permission for me to visit and participate. And I got the invitation. So I made the trip up there to see this gentleman. Heard a lot about him. Had one of his wives show up outside the door of my trailer. Man. And I just got a really terrible feeling. This woman shows up driving a Cadillac, and I parked outside the church, and it was Saturday, and nobody else was around. And the Spirit, I guess this is when I was listening to the Holy Spirit, all right. The Spirit tells me, John, don't litter inside your trailer. Whatever you do not litter. Welcome her inside. And so she sat there in the chair, and we talked outside, and she left, and I felt very awkward. She was looking me over in a way that made me feel uncomfortable. Anyway, turns out she had just left her husband, and I'm so glad I missed that one. I don't believe in mixing things up. That was Wigstrom's fifth wife, who had just left him. And I had trouble with remembering her name and her father and other relationships. Seems like the women came and went pretty rapidly there. Well, really there weren't that many people, but things happened fast enough. And Loretta showed up once or twice, and that was it. And the Spirit told me, no, do not invite her in. Don't have anything to do with her. So I did not. That was a saving moment. Anyway, The FBI puts their informants out in extreme groups. The FBI is everywhere, and the FBI pits one group against the other. And if one group isn't violent enough against the other group, the FBI will inspire them. The FBI will egg them on. That's how they divided the country. The FBI did that. That's what their job was. Aside from babysitting errant politicians who might have gotten busted for their shenanigans in Washington, D.C., yeah, they babysit those guys. They literally put an agent on them to protect them from themselves. So if they got drunk or did some stupid shit, it would not come to the public light. They could get away with whatever they wanted, doing murder, doing other women, adults, children. Didn't matter. The FBI was protecting them. But the FBI also was separating us. That's why we never should have allowed the FBI to be formed, because that's what their real function was and is and remains. And they are doing that to this very day. And I know you think that, what would we do, Dr. Kent? We have to have law enforcement. That law enforcement, that's what you need. You need the militia. And you need to return to sheriffs having total rule over their counties. Also, you need to actually expand that so that the practice would be one sheriff can investigate any other sheriff in the whole nation. In other words, one sheriff can call another sheriff out. That's how we keep them clean and honest. So we give the sheriff's authority across county lines to charge the other sheriff, to challenge him, to arrest him if need be. I know that's a new privilege, a power that's not been there before. Yeah, it's my idea. You can cite me. But when it comes to the name of God and all that, this lesson, this is from Paul Burnham. Paul Burnham was a real rock-hard believer. Paul Burnham even patched things up between me and Jason. He knew how to make stuff happen. I wish I could have met him. At least Jason got to meet him. Gadriel seduced, had sex with Eve, produced a son named Cain. That's right. Now, from Edwin Kroger, who we knew as Andy, a farmer, my dear friend and brother. I miss Andy. We learn that Eve was deceived, and as a result, she became a deceiver. So that's an important principle. You've been deceived, and you become a deceiver. Makes sense? That seems like the natural order. Eve had been deceived, and she became a deceiver. And she opens up, or Genesis opens up with the first verse of the chapter saying, basically Eve says to Adam, look, Adam, I got myself a son with the help of God. She got herself a son, and she puts it off on God. In other words, she's cuckolding Adam. I want you to understand, that's my contribution. That's my perspective on it. So she basically pulled paternity fraud. Now, that's a stretch, and I'm open to challenges on that one. And if you can correct me, and you know better than me, baby, and you've been tuned into here, you know I'm going to love being corrected. I want to know the actual truth. It doesn't matter to me what it really is. Well, it does a bit. I'd like to be right, but I don't mind being wrong on a lot of things. This would be one of them I wouldn't mind being wrong on. I'd like to think more highly of our mother, Eve. But you see, Eve was the mother of all the living. And what that means in the Bible, I don't know. So if you can figure out what it means, I want to hear your opinion. But I will share with you mine. Mine is that Eve was the mother of the sons of Adam and the sons of the evil one. Her name was Eve. Is that short for evil? Or is that just a nickname for deceived Eve? Remember, in the New Testament it says clearly, the man was not deceived. The woman was. And how did I find out how to spell the name Gadriel? I kept trying to spell it. I got to thinking, nah, man, this isn't good enough. I got to find it. So I finally Googled it. It come up on Wikipedia. Yeah, that's right. That holy sacred book on the computer, on the internet, called Wikipedia. Wikipedia. You would think it'd be the last place to enter this stuff in, but they'll probably take the page down now that I make this video, but that's all right. I didn't save it. I wished I had before I made this recording. If you go and look it up, then save it for me, please. I'll be doggone. G-A-D-R, and I thought maybe it was E-A-L is what I thought it was. No, it was G-A-D-R double E-L. G-A-D-R-E-E-L. Gadriel. Okay, great. Something to do, and the last part of it, L, means God. So, Gadriel's name got shortened down to Gad. And from that we got God. So this is one of the weird twists of the Bible. And I would have to blame this on the evil scribes that were hidden among the good scribes. I think that they changed it on us. Now, if you can come up with a better story, I'm all ears, baby. You're going to get my attention. You just put a link down there in the comments and you'll get, well, I only have 511 subscribers. They're hard earned. I think they're pretty loyal and pretty trustworthy. I might lose 1 or 2 a week and gain 1 or 3 a week. And I ask people not to share my videos with just anybody, but only with fellow believers, because this is advanced Bible study. This is not for the weaklings. This is not milk. And this isn't strong meat. This is just meat. I reserve calling something strong meat to those older brothers of mine who teach me. And believe me, they're so far ahead of me I can barely keep up. And if you expect me to convey that to you, I will do my best. Just give me time. I don't know how much time I have left on this planet going around the sun, but you know, it takes time. And I will do my homework. And I'll bring the best I can to you. Gadriel became God. So here we are praising God. Now, isn't that kind of an ironic thing? Isn't that kind of a subtle twist? Is that something not expected? I need you to develop some flexibility. I need you to overcome the prevailing brainwashing, including the prevailing brainwashing that we men have come up with in our religiosity. We have created man-made religions. We have the traditions of men, our culture, and they're hard to overcome because they've been ingrained there for so doggone long. And we've heard the lies for so long that we're only comfortable in the lie. We're not comfortable with the truth. We have to know the truth. We have to be comfortable in it. If anything in the Bible offends you, according to Pastor Jerry Wiki, then you have a problem. And believe me, there's many times I read in there and I go, man, I got to have a talk with God, man. I got to have a talk with Yahweh. I mean, look at what I'm living. Look at what I'm seeing going on. We got to have a face-to-face. I laugh. I don't know if I can survive a face-to-face. I don't know if I'm entitled to a face-to-face. I'm pretty sure somebody's going to educate me along the way so I don't have to have that face-to-face. but would I take it? I'm kind of afraid, but why not? I've done everything else in this life. Might as well take that chance too. You need to understand, the Bible's been twisted up a little bit against us, and it's used against us, and the evil ones read it more than we do. And somehow they pull different stuff out of it, and they use it against us. Quite often they use it against us by playing our fears and playing our emotions. And the latest and greatest is that it has to get worse before it gets better. And then we get beamed up. Scotty, beam us up. Get us off the planet. That ain't gonna happen. That was Darby that brought that to bear. And you ought to read the history on Darby and his background. It's pretty damn dark. Nothing good to come from that boy. Period. Gadriel, one of the 6 leaders. So the fallen angels had 6 leaders. So I estimate there are 600 angels, or were 600 angels total. How did I get that number? Well, it says in there, Satan took 1/3 of the heavenly host with him. Okay. And it says somewhere else, and I got to get the book, and I think it's the first book of Enoch, maybe the second book of Enoch. I don't like my edition of the book of Enoch. There were 200 fallen angels gathered on Mount Hermon. Please get that right. The Messiah took his disciples to Mount Hermon one time in the Bible. One time he took them to Mount Hermon. The other times it was to the Mount of Olives. And so it's easy for us to get the two confused. But something happened on Mount Hermon. Now, I don't know exactly where Mount Hermon is. And sometimes we get Mount Hermon confused with Mount Sinai. And of course, we've always looked for Mount Sinai on the Sinai Peninsula, right? It's got to be in the Sinai somewhere. No, the Bible says in one place, it's in the Arabia. I think that's Galatians where that is. Don't hold me to it. Don't hold me to it. Go look it up. And when you find it, put it in the comments for me. Help me in my memory out. Mount Hermon and Mount Sinai get confused. And we believe that's the case because it's possible they might be peaks on the same foothills, or even the same foothill, if you will. And they could be a mile away, or 5 miles away, 10 miles away, 12 miles away. I don't know. But I keep trying to pay attention to that every time something comes up along those lines because I want to know more about Mount Hermon. But I will tell you that I don't think the original sin was committed by Adam and Eve. I know that's what we say. That's what the tradition is. When I read the Bible and I want to blame somebody else. Yeah, Genesis 6:2. Pretty sure that's it. I think that's the original sin. And that is an allusion to the 200 fallen angels that gathered on Mount Hermon and conspired. What was the nature of their conspiracy? They found the daughters of men fair, and they wanted to take all of them possible that they could for wives. And you have to remember, there were no marriage licenses back then. There was just the sex act. That was marriage. And I know you're going to tell me, well, that's not marriage. You got to have a license. No, baby. You need to think a little differently and a little crudely. And if you hung out with the natives in Alaska, you would understand. Those folks have no synonym for fucking. There's no making love. There's no having sex. In their tradition, there's just the F word, and that's it. Well, I think, mind you. I know it's a long stretch from that 4-letter word to marriage, but I want you to understand that back then there were no marriage licenses. Now I can find one for you now that I told you that, but I'm not going to tell you where it is, and I'm going to tell you it's not going to be found quite in my Bible that I sell. It's not in there, but it's pretty close. That's all I'm going to tell you. Do your own work. Read it. Read it. Read it. That's a great story, by the way. I mean, there's a lot in that little story. You really need to discover it and read it, because it gets pretty wild and pretty dangerous and pretty creepy. And the lady involved kills a bunch of guys. Yeah, I know. You think the macabre is on the stage. No, I think the macabre is inside the Bible, man. Anyway. So they wanted to take all of them for wives. They wanted to have sex with them freely. And they took them. That's another key thing. And that's from Randy. Oh, what is your last name, Randy? My dear brother Randy. I thought I had a hard life. And then I met Randy and talked with him in person. And I was really, really humbled. And I felt kind of ashamed to have complained about my family at all. When I heard about what... Come on, Randy. What is your last name? Oh, man. I got you on my cell phone. I got you on Facebook. You changed your names a few times. Randy considers himself a teacher's teacher. And Randy does take things out there quite a bit. Randy's had a tremendous library. He's had a lot of upheaval in his life. And I wish I had bailed him out more the last time I was there. I thought about it. It just got to be too strange, and he was in dire straits. And I wish I'd have I had some emergency funds, and afterwards I thought, man, I should have just taken $200. This is Randy here. Take this, and I probably should have told Randy, I'll take some books, because Randy was giving them away. I missed out on that one. He's in Virginia. Phone's busy recording me, or I'd look his name up. I'm getting confused with my old partner on the rivers in Bush in Alaska, Randy Reeby, who was a dear believer. Back when we were Zionist Christians. We didn't know any better. Yes, the Zionist Christians are going to be rearing their ugly heads. You're going to probably be seeing Donald Trump ascend to the throne. And you're going to see the Zionist Christians empowered, thinking that he's their savior. And he's not. He's anything but. Understand, this thing's unfolding just the way Yahweh planned it, not the way I planned it. And I get that from Dwayne Middleton, an elder. I don't know if he's still with us. He wasn't doing too good. He had to escape. His son was exploiting him, and he was also fighting to hang on to his own life and the problems he was having. And Dwayne really was the first one to tell us and warn us about Trump. It was so long ago, none of us listened to him. But he was right about that. He might have been right about his calendar stuff as well. I never could understand it. I wish I knew where he was. I'd like to visit the gentleman on my travels this next couple of months. I'd like to see how he's doing. I don't want to see him if he's ill, like I didn't want to see Pastor Jerry Wicke when he became grossly demented. His brain was addled because his vitamin D threw his calcium off, and the calcium addled his brain, gave him a premature start on dementia. And then his son saw fit to make sure their parents both got inoculated so they could travel anywhere. Dumbasses. What the hell's wrong with them? I'm still angry with those 3 boys. Very angry. How could you call yourself one of us and do that to your parents? Whose bright idea was that? Parenticide is a sin, buddy. I hope you tune into this video someday and you catch this. Because a lot of us are angry with you over that. I try to tamp my anger down. There's one more death I'm angry about that happened in the church. But then I might get off into some weeds and really start talking about some stuff I'm not sure about. Hot subjects. Anyway, I want you to buy one of my Bibles. And I want you to read it. I mean, yeah, it makes a nice thing to put on the coffee table. You know, I guess you could turn it into a paperweight if you wanted to. Or even a doorstop if you really wanted to. Put it on the floor. But you need to read it and take it into you. This version is more accurate than all the other versions. There is another version in South Africa that is pretty recent, and I don't know anything about it. I keep meaning to walk across the street and talk to my neighbor because somebody gifted him a copy of it. And it has different title names, but it has the name of Yahweh in it. And it's out of South Africa, and my Facebook buddies in South Africa are excited about this. So excited, they're talking about it in their own language, and they're not talking about it in English yet, so they really haven't shared it with the rest of the world. So I think it's brand new, and I think they're busy looking at it right now. So it's another version, and you have to remember, there are brothers in South Africa, and the spirit is very strong in South Africa. We had probably the most recent, well, he's not the most recent prophet, but probably one of the greatest prophets of this last century was in South Africa. Von Renziger. Signer von Renziger was probably one of the best prophets. And I've been trying to get his prophecies and his works in my hands. He tells us about what happens to America. I already know what he said. I just don't like repeating it much. Yeah, babe, we're going to fight. Not only that, we're going to get blasted to smithereens. According to the prophet, that's how it would happen. So you can thank both of your political parties for screwing this government up. Or you could take them both out of office. I think it's time to wakey, wakey, wakey. You need to rise up. You need to use your Bibles. You need to build that Holy Spirit. There's no other guidance available for you. I can only give you a few ideas, and my prime idea is the return of the 13th Amendment, which actually comes from Eustace Mullins, the great author and researcher. And the 13th Amendment is the law of the land. You just have to declare it, and you have to vote in real people into the seats of an organic government and ignore those corporate governments. That's according to Patricia Wheat, a gentlewoman out of South Carolina, ran for Congress and almost made it. She understands more about domestic policies, and when I first saw her on Facebook, she was not quite one of us. She was one of those Zionist Christians. But I'll be doggone if she hasn't made great strides. She has come a long ways. Come a long ways, baby. Please don't get upset for me for saying that to you, Patricia. Your nickname is Lady Liberty as far as I'm concerned. I think you'd make a wonderful vice president. Why? Because the vice president is in charge of domestic policies. And you know more about recovering this republic than anybody else I know. I hope you'll step up to the plate when you're offered the job. I hope you're offered the job too. Gad became God. Yes, Gad, the troop. Same name. Similar. It's associated to it somehow. I don't know much about the tribe of Gad. You can look that up, and if you know something about it, put it in the notes. I didn't start this channel just to teach. I started this channel to sell some Bibles, make a little bit of money for myself. Yes, believe it or not, even though I haven't sold hardly any Bibles, I haven't made much money. And I really support this Bible. And I also started so I could learn. You see, to master something, you teach it. If you want mastery, you start teaching it, and you learn in short order what you don't know. And you cover that ground pretty quickly. Now, I've got my own Bible studies that I attend. I missed this one Thursday because of the difficulties I've been having with this RV and with the court. I miss them once in a while. I have things I have to take care of in the cool of the day and can't make it. But I learned so much there. And of course, I've liked to brag that no woman will ever know the Bible better than I know it. Matter of fact, I said that to my aunt. I got tired of her beating me up and other people up with her Bible, her holier than thou attitude. I should have realized it was overcompensation for her own foibles. And God bless her and God save her. Maybe God forgive her too. I went back home to visit her twice. And I wasn't going to allow her to beat me up anymore and dominate me with the Bible. So I told her, she started giving me some Bible stuff. So I told her what she was talking about in detail. And she kept trying to interrupt me. So I bulldozed over her for a change. I wouldn't let her talk. I was tired of being beat up with the Bible, being abused with the Bible, her taking power and lording it over others. So I told her what was in the Bible. She was speechless. She didn't know what to do or what to say. She kind of was a little bit on the panicky side too. But she stopped browbeating me. And I didn't know that she had respect for me, but she apparently called my mother up. My mother told this to me. And she told my mother, he really knows his Bible, but I don't agree with everything he says. Look, Aunt Lois, I don't agree with everything I say myself. I'm just sorting stuff out here. I'm just learning. But I'm doing it kind of in front of the world because I want people to understand my thinking, how I got there. I want them to be able to think for themselves. My father did not think out loud or explain to me his thinking. I wish he had. It would have made life a lot easier for me. I think it would have. He just told me what to think or what was up. He didn't tell me how. He didn't share his thought processes with me, I guess. I don't know. Men didn't talk much then, but I really wish my dad had talked more. I hung out with my grandpa. Didn't talk much. Said some critical, crucial things to me, though, that stick in my mind, for sure. Hung out with my grandmother, his wife. She was college educated. Man, did she do her best to educate me. She spent hours with me. Because I went up and visited her specifically when I was at Berkeley. In Boston, I'd take a bus up there and visit as often as I could. And I wanted to know about the family. And I got so close to my grandmother that I learned a lot. And I also learned about the family dynamics. And the sad thing is that I, her grandson, became closer to her and got along better with her than her own son did, her oldest boy, Roy. And I understand the family dynamics as a psychologist. And they are awkward dynamics. And I would ask you to pray for me. I was robbed twice of inheritances. And, well, I guess one could even count it 3 times. I was robbed of any inheritance my uncle had or might have had for me. And I was robbed of the inheritance my grandfather gave my uncle to safeguard for me. So I guess we could say that's twice. And then plus the coin dealer in Houston, my distant relative, arranged for that snafu. And that cost me dearly. Everything contributed to it. I know it's all of Yahweh. I know it's all set up. I know that there's good to come of it somehow. I've been forced to rely upon Yahweh. Isn't that what's happening to you? You're being forced to rely upon Yahweh? Are you not being reduced? Diminished? Are you not being robbed of your substance? The purchasing power of the money you have stored up, what you think is money, is being taken from you by Pharaoh today. Yes, Pharaoh is alive and well today. His spirit rules you out of that wonderfully neutral country that's above all the others, that's so good it would never harm a fly. They've been running all this stuff behind the scenes from Switzerland. And they also have got southern Germany populated. It's important you know Yahweh's proper name. Now, I had a rough time with it. Man, it was awkward. I had to get this Bible to help get me through that transition. And even in the Bible, your Bible, it talks about Yahweh says, you're going to forget my name. It's going to disappear. It says it in one of the major prophets. And I'll be doggone. It was written down about 3 centuries, maybe 5 centuries. I don't remember. Before it really happened. So when was his name forgotten? When Ptolemy II in Alexandria in Egypt, when producing the Septuagint, the Greek version, took the name of Yahweh out of the Bible. That's how we lost it. I don't know if Ptolemy was a good guy. I'm inclined to think he wasn't. He robbed us of that power. Yet, here we are, rediscovering it. The real meaning of the Tetragrammaton. And do we have it right? I think we do. And I know there's other arguments for Yahweh. Okay, fine. It's not too far different. The vowels are different. And I understand that. And Paleo-Hebrew had no vowels, so it's kind of hard to argue that one. Because it's possible. But those people hold on to it and put religious airs in it and do holier than thou stuff, forms with their writing, so they're forming a tradition of man. I don't think we formed a tradition of man. I think we found the right name. I think there's been archaeological discoveries made. I don't know for sure that we have it right, but I'm pretty sure. And if you read the appendix in this Bible, okay, this is my dog-eared one, and I finally broke the binding. Happened this last week. It's not too bad. The pages are still together, so yeah, it's just the cover's coming off. I got another version, another copy I bought from my uncle. It's black. It's leatherette, large print like this. It's got the tabs in it. I need the tabs now. I did my best to learn the order, not having the tabs help, but I want the tabs because I want to be able to move faster, especially when I'm in Bible study on the phone, because man, this guy moves so fast. I don't know what to do about it. I'm writing notes in the margins. I'm dog earing. I'm using my four-colored pen. You know, I'm using a fluorescent. This doesn't show up if you copy the page, but it shows up to the under our eyes. So I use that, and I have a system of dog-legging the thing, and I'm making notes and marks, and trying to keep up, trying to understand things, trying to absorb it all. Oh, and as I got sidetracked again, this group has got some women in it who know their Bible. They impress me. I sit there and they bring up things, and it's just marvelous. So yes, women can know the Bible. I just wanted to be a little bit on the dominant side and have a little bit of respect. And of course, I got it kind of the old-fashioned way. I guess I used my Bible, used it on my own aunt, and beat her with my Bible a little bit. I really didn't want to do that. I just wanted to shut her up, let her know that I knew more than she knew, and she needed to listen to me for a change. She did listen to me, and she had some respect, and she didn't agree with it all. And that's the way it is when you introduce these concepts to people. They won't agree with it. And the fact is, we don't have to agree with it all. You and I don't have to agree on everything. Core things, core values, yes. Give you an example. The argument is, at least among those people that were hanging out in the middle of the country when I first was going there, going to feast days, those guys were arguing among themselves. The pastors were taking different stands. One said the flood was worldwide, and he collected all the books and put it in a closet. He collected all the books he could and had a closet dedicated to proving that the flood was worldwide. And the other pastor says, no, it was obviously local. And then the crazy thing is that there's actually at least 2 floods in the Bible, maybe more. And we have the flood at the beginning, which was worldwide. And the Spirit hovered over the deep and terraformed the earth, regenerated the earth after it had been destroyed. My name is Dr. John Taylor Kent. I'm what's left of him after all these years. It's been pretty rough, I have to admit. I was put here for a reason. I don't fully understand my mission, but if I did, I wouldn't tell you, because some things you have to do alone. And when you get that calling, remember, it's not a party line. It's just for you. So you tell me he doesn't want a relationship with you when he can call you out and give you your mission and guide you on your way. And if you fail to turn to him, you get off course a little bit and you suffer. And if you abide by his wishes and his will, you get surprises and you get blessings. But you have to overcome your fear, and you have to trust. That's hard. And you have to have faith. And that's a tough one. You have to have enough faith to face your fears. Whatever your demons are, whatever the boogeyman is for you, you have to face. Usually, the boogeyman goes away or doesn't exist, or backs down or backs off, and you and Yahweh prevail. That is your way. That's why it is called the way. It's your way. It's very individual. That is what we are here to do. That was the example Yahshua set. Yahshua did just what his father Yahweh wanted, and only that. Didn't want to do it all the time. Knew it was rough. Did it anyway. Still hard to accept. Still don't want to accept it. It's not exactly pleasant thinking. No, it's not. I don't care what anybody says. Salvation is individual and it's national. That comes from Pastor Jerry Wiki. Salvation is national in that you have to be a party to the covenants. This is what I believe. You have to be a party to the original old covenant. And I'm going to expand this for you so you're not going to believe it, but you have to go there. Because I got a brother in Missouri I was trying to straighten out. Love the guy a lot. He's published. He's written a marvelous book. He's got quite an intellect, but I think he's in error. The blessing was to Abraham. Abrahamic. The blessings to Abraham included his sons. And so we have two different groups that come off of Abraham. And what most people don't want to realize is that there were 12 dukes. Please hear me right. 12 dukes. I know we're all familiar with the fact there were 12 tribes, which isn't right. There were 13 tribes. Read the Bible and ask yourself, where's the tribe of Joseph? Then you'll understand there are 13 tribes. There were 13 colonies. There were 13 states. There are only 13 bona fide amendments. We have to declare that 13th Amendment the law of the land for the Great American Reset. We have to give the world the Great American Reset. It has to occur under Yahweh. And I know we have a lot of people out there that are going to fight us on that. And we are going to have to go slow and steady, be very stable to get our government back. Because you do not make America great again. Yahweh makes America great again. No man makes America great again. And not only that, we have to be made good again before we can become great again. So make America good again. That's what made America great, was because she was good. America's been altered. She's no good. Now, I beg to differ and differentiate between America, Americans, and citizens of the United States. The United States is a corporate that's been foisted off upon us. Corporate fascism, corporatism. I don't know where Google begins and the government begins, where one begins and ends. I don't know where our corporations begin and our government begins and ends. I don't know where our Federal Reserve System begins and our government begins and ends. Yeah. Pharaoh. We're all enslaved. We're all bond servants. Yep. Land of the what? The bond servant? I told you we were the servant race. I really meant it. The question is, who are you serving? And we're all on that stock market. We are the cattle. We are the stock and trade. They got lots of headed cattle and sheep. They shear the sheep and milk the cattle all the time for all we've got. All of that wealth that we have goes through this amazing system they set up, this marvelous money magic system. And so we think we're better than the people in the Orient. We don't know that we're the ones that are slaves. At least the people in Asia know and recognize us for what we are. They know this is a slave system. So folks, who are you going to be bonded to? You're going to let yourself be traded on the open stock exchange? And they've got hidden trusts that they don't tell you about, because if you knew about it, you would claim your rightful inheritance and bankrupt them, and maybe even put an end to these wars. Remember the march of dimes of silver. I look forward to the day when we're all carrying silver dimes, and a cup of coffee is a silver dime. That would be cheaper than it is right now. But silver right now is kind of cheap. Life in many ways is kind of cheap. Yahweh's pissed off at us because of that. How many do we murder every year? And we have what everybody knows, we have abortion. But what about the massive number of fentanyl deaths that are outright murders that the police refuse to classify as murder? They write them all off as drug overdoses, even when they've been murdered. So people get away with murder in this country like crazy. The police know it, and they don't care. As I said, the man of lawlessness made his appearance in this divine play a long time ago. He's your president right now, and he's running to set records, because if he gets a fourth term and he lives through it, he's going to have outdone that other horrible president we had that put us into bankruptcy and sold us out and stole our gold, stole from the American people. You see, these people are liars, thieves, and murderers. And right now, they want to nuke your ass. And mine. I'm not leaving myself out of it. And we have an amazing brother over in Russia named Vladimir. He's the only adult in the room. And we have to pray for Vladimir that he continues to have optimism and that the Russian people don't push him too far, because they're tired of this bullshit dance they've been forced to do. You see, that war was never against Russia. Look at the outcome. Russia is stronger than ever. That was by design. These bankers know what the hell they're doing, folks. They intend to make sure that we continue to have hell on earth. And as I declared a long time ago, I know I had the audacity to record a video of it and put it up. It's probably on the channel. It was taken down. I don't remember. I lost a lot of videos, but I declared the kingdom of heaven upon the earth. That's what our job is. That's what our destiny is. Our destiny isn't somewhere else. We're not going to Mars. We're earthlings. We can only exist on the earth, the garden that Yahweh created for us. Our brothers out there want us to join them. We have to bless them. We have to share the way with them. We need to unite here in the country around the original precepts. That's all we're going to be able to agree upon at best. And we need to throw the parasites out. Take the trash out. We need to reclaim the original 13th Amendment and get rid of the bar associations and put the attorneys in their place and hold their feet to the fire. And we need to get rid of this phony banking system and go back to God's money, Yahweh's money. You know where Ophir was? Remember the gold of Ophir? It's up around the Great Lakes somewhere. Yeah, Solomon mined gold over here. Unfortunately, the fleet was taken down, and the Israelites that were over here were abandoned here. That's right. They were abandoned here. And they ended up being integrated into the native population. And that's why you will see natives in the heartland being so Caucasoid. And that's why the natives that met the Englishmen spoke English, sat in chairs, at tables, ate with utensils. By the way, Israelites didn't eat in chairs. Egyptians did. Ham did. Joseph, Ephraim, Manasseh. We are the great nation written about in Genesis. We are the forgetful ones. And we have our brother Dan Henderson writing a book saying the great remembering to help wake us up. Him and Crazy Horse are calling us to account for what we've done and what we've become and what we've allowed to happen and how we've been tricked, deceived, how we failed to bless it all the way our Native American brothers have, who are Mongoloids, for the most part. They bless everything. So how we Caucasoids, how we Caucasians rise and take this place back the way we're supposed to, without the help of the rest, I don't know. Is it possible? It may be necessary. Maybe we're going to see Yahweh step in and fight once again, like he did in the days of old, that I've heard stories about. The evil ones know about the fighting in the days of old too, and they want to recreate it. That is their great work, is to reduce us to the animal nature, to barbarism. Let's not let them do that. Let's rise to this occasion. Let's reclaim our heritage. Let's reclaim our inheritance. Let's reclaim the way. Let's do that nationally and individually. We have to have private victories, which is why I changed the party name from BD to B, little v, D. Little v stands for private victory. And that's from the pastor of the last church that I was at. The next pastor I had at Grace Community Church in Tempe. We have to have private victories before we can have public victories. And we also have to pay our dues. Now, Paul paid his dues. Yes, he got blasted on the road to Damascus, and then he went and read the scriptures for about 17 years, almost 20 years, before he went out. He didn't have the New Testament back then, by the way. He had the Old Testament. Who knows? He might have had a book or two of the New Testament, but I doubt it. I got blasted too. I sat on my ass and read the Bible. It was just an NIV study Bible, an original one. Read it 3 times. And each time I read it, it astounded me as what I was discovering and how different it was from what I had been taught as a little boy in Sunday school. That's right. And that Bible reached out to me and it yelled at me from the pages, love, truth, and justice. So I leave you with those words. Love truth, as John Huss did, and love justice. And let's finish the phrase, in the American way.